Let's be honest here. Nobody expected the War Devil to become the breakout action star of Chainsaw Part 2. When Yoru first showed up, she was weak, she was petty, she was bratty, she was confused, and she was getting folded up by the Bat Devil like she's doing trial push ups. She looked like the devil equivalent of a first level RPG character who mistakenly wandered into a late game zone. Nobody took her seriously. But chapter 221 doesn't just rewrite that impression, it body slams it, it vaporizes it, it nukes it quite literally, because this is the chapter where Yoru, the war devil, the youngest sister of the four horsewomen, she makes it absolutely undeniable that she didn't just power up, she ascended. So, as always, we'll get into a brief recap of the chapter before we unpack the entirety of the chapter itself, because Yoru has finally arrived as being a true rival to the ever so iconic Makima, which, yes, I'm going there. Makima was the gaslighting queen. She had way more riz than Yoru, but it's time to concede that Yoru's writing, quite frankly, makes her her right now. So let's get into the quick recap of the chapter. So, chapter 221 opens up. The horrifyingly massive Michigan sword finishes forming. A giant mass of buildings, people, infrastructure compressed into a single blade. The trapped residents are flung out of the collapsing structures, disoriented, submerged in water, completely unaware of their role in Yoru's latest war weapon cosplay. Wasting no time, Yoru immediately bisects Chainsman cleanly, and she starts to celebrate, but then she freezes when she sees that Pochita is able to regenerate. As he comes at her again, she realizes that the duel, it has become endless, forcing her to question what on earth Pochita has devoured that allows him to revive infinitely. So at this point, she escalates. Yoru then sacrifices the remaining people of the entire state of Oregon, who pop out of existence to fire another massive strike. Declaring the final round, she goes even further. She sacrifices all the people of Virginia to power up a full scale nuclear punch. Devils watch in the distance, they can only stare in awe. And the citizens of Japan down below, they remain clueless about the colossal explosion that erupts with enough force that it threatens even hell's doors. So, with the recap out of the way, let's get into the nitty gritty of the chapter itself. So, I think the first thing we got to look at here is that Yoru has quietly become easily the most menacing devil in the entirety of the series. So, here's the thing about Yoru. You don't realize how insane she's gotten until you take a step back. And this is where I would strongly recommend rereading the series, because she doesn't feel like Makima. Those are really big shoes to fill right there. Makima is iconic. Everything that Makima did, it was wrapped in some ominous elegance. You just knew that Makima was up to something. She was like a fire that a moth was flying into. So beautiful, so dangerous, and you're burned up before you realize it. Yoru, on the other hand, she is chaotic. She is emotional. She is prideful. She is bratty. She is insecure. And good God, is she unhinged. And yet, her attack resume, it is quickly becoming god tier. She nuked Japan with an entire punch. With the Statue of Liberty attack from way back during the Aging Devil arc, that was one of the wildest images in all of manga, turning her own children, the gun and the tank devils, into weapons themselves. She is now weaponizing entire US states. She is growing stronger over the war between the United States and Russia. She is destroying millions of people casually. Michigan, Oregon, Virginia. She has taken the trigger fingers of all the gun owners in Texas. She has taken the lives of all the people in California whenever she gets killed. That Oregon sword, the fact that she obliterated an entire state just to make a blade that looks like it was something that was a hysterical and a desperate attempt by her to get the best of Pochita, it speaks volumes to how little she values human life. That is what makes her very terrifying. But that's also the true brilliance. Yoru truly did not start out like this. We watched her grow more bloodlust as the series progressed. She has earned this through a twisted, almost protagonist like level of growth, which is ironic given the fact that Yoru is the villain of the story. Yoru's power scaling, it is basically a dark inverse of what you would see with a shonen protagonist. So Yoru started out weak, embarrassingly weak. because the concept of war, it had faded from history itself. Her power, it had diminished. She was a devil that nobody feared. No one invoked war itself. Nobody truly respected her. She struggled against fodder devils, like we saw with the Bat Devil. She was in a position where she could have got washed repeatedly. But part two gradually revived the idea of war. Global tensions began to rise. Military imagery was used. All of a sudden, nuclear weapons were recreated by the United States of America. United States in general just resurged into being a wartime symbolism in this story. And with each and every step, Yoru is shown growing stronger, not through destiny, not through hacks, not through devil fruits. Instead, she was getting stronger through the fear that was spreading through the world. That was her version of a training arc, whereas somebody like Deku from My Hero Academia does push-ups and trains his quirks and etc. Whereas someone like Naruto has to have the guts to never give up. Yoru, she was just in a position where the more people feared violence, the stronger she became. She's the only major villain that we have in Chainsaw Man who has had a real progression curve. She doesn't maintain power. Instead, she just builds it, just as the drum beats of war over time in real life grow louder and louder. In chapter 221, this is what I do feel like is a crescendo of Yoru's character arc. She is now in a position where she's using nuclear war itself, the most fearsome of human invention, and she's using it as fuel to get stronger. She weaponizes specific states, and if you look at them, they're all tied to air bases, navy bases, army training, war infrastructure. Everything that Fujimoto has done, it has been increasingly very deliberate. She pulls her strength from geopolitical power. America's dominance in global warfare literally empowers her. That is why she said a while back, I don't love Denji, I just love America. That is why she said the Pledge of Allegiance over all those dead bodies after a war broke out. It's genius, it's cruel, it's thematic, and honestly, it is downright horrifying, especially when you look at the message of what Fujimoto is trying to say. Yoru is becoming a lot worse than Makima. She just doesn't have Makima's aura, and she does not have the long list of bodies that Makima was able to rack up when it comes to people that Denji cares about. Makima, in my opinion, part of what made her so great as a character is that she was terrifying because of her calmness, her control, her godlike composure, her ability to seduce not just Denji as a character, but also us as readers. Yoru is terrifying because she is becoming a force of destruction that is emotional, impulsive, chaotic, creative, and she is powered by the world's darkest impulses. Whereas Makima was somebody that embodied a lot of the sexual impulses that everybody has. Yoru embodies some of the darker, angrier impulses that exist inside of every single human being. Both of these two sisters embody the primal urges that we as civilized people we just repress. Yoru doesn't just kill people. She converts entire populations into weapons, just as war itself does not care about whether or not somebody's home is being destroyed in the process. Nothing Makima ever did, in my opinion, truly approaches sacrificing entire states, not cities, not towns, full on states. Some of these states are bigger than the population that Japan has as a whole. And Yoru, she does it not just casually, but she does it with a level of brutality that almost feels like it should be off screen because of how fast it happens. She's the embodiment of modern war. She is distant, she is impersonal, she is sudden, but she is every bit as devastating as old school war. And what's even more chilling, she should not feel this powerful because she did not start out this way, which makes her rise that much more unpredictable. And that now brings me to why Yoru is the real action engine of part two. And that's the part that's very easy to overlook because part two started out a lot slower than part one. And so many people fell in love with Denji's character. And there were times when you read part two, you felt like the story really progressed when Denji popped up on the scene. But when you just sit down and you go back and you look at it, it almost feels as if Fujimoto was setting Yoru up for this moment here to take that mantle. Readers, we often focus on Mitako or Denji or Fami, Lil D, all the emotional beats. all those heartbreaking moments like Nayuta's death, because anytime you kill a child in a shonen, it's just something that automatically resonates because that's supposed to be territory you don't go into. But in terms of pure spectacle, Yoru, she is carrying part two's action on her back. I'm well aware that that is a hot take, but I say that to say this. When you list out her moments, it becomes very obvious. The Statue of Liberty being a fragment of the gun devil, the torch that the Statue of Liberty has transforming into a sniper rifle. That's a damning commentary. Nuking Japan, nuking Russia, the Organ Sword, turning her gun and tank devil children's into weapons, obliterating entire states, the gun commentary. She brings in energy, visual insanity, all the unexpected, incredible, striking imagery. It's easier to miss all this because oftentimes it's on page. It's not animated yet, but when you step back and you replay her feats and you think about what's being said, I do feel like she has become one of the most iconic villains in this entire series, almost to the point where she will go underappreciated. Chapter 221, in my opinion, it definitely cements this because this does feel like this is Yoru's peak. And what's even scarier, this might not be her final form. We could very well see a United States of America sword getting made at the progression that she's going at. Chapter 221 is not just a battle chapter, it's really a statement. It says that war has truly returned and that Yoru is the avatar. This chapter shows her leveraging geopolitics, and you have the nuclear imagery, you have the military symbolism, you have the mass sacrifice. It makes her feel like a true final villain, even though there's somebody like the Fire Devil that we could look at and say the Fire Devil might be that final villain. But she still feels every bit like the Yoru that we've grown to know and love, and in some cases hate. She's angry, she's bratty, she's petty, she's loud, she's flawed. She acts every bit like that younger sibling that is always striving for the attention because we all respect her sisters, especially Makima, a lot more than her. And she is always in their shadows. And that makes her extremely dangerous because somebody like that, who always feels like they have something to prove, there's no line that they won't cross in order to get the respect that they feel that they deserve. And that is why she works. That is why she, in my opinion, is a very relatable character. And that's what makes her so terrifying because she is the embodiment of every single thing that we are told a good person should not do. And that's why I do believe she's becoming one of Chainsaw Man's best villains ever. And when this is all said and done, she might be there with her sister Makima as one of the best new gen villains in the 2020s. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, clicking here on the left to check out more Chainsaw Man videos, or click here on the right to check out more videos from Anime Explained that cover other anime and manga.